Hey guys, I'm Joey Ternullo, SK Mod Driver at Stafford Motor Speedway here in Connecticut, and this is a C&J Speedway Review 2020 style, as I welcome in Chris and Corey to kick off this year's show, the first one of the year.
You sound pretty professional there, Joey. You done this before?
I have.
Well, welcome to you on our first show of 2020. Welcome to everybody watching or listening, wherever you steal your favorite podcast from. And now allow me to welcome Corey Huffnagel. Corey, looks like all three of us made it to 2020. Even producer Eddie Focus made it to 2020. First question out of my mouth for you and Joey collectively is, raise your hand if your team is continuing on in the playoffs this year in the NFL. That's right. Corey, hate it for your luck. I'm not picking on you. He's got his Packers gimmick on. Corey, I'm not trying to hate on you, but I watched most of that game. As I'm not a fan of the Patriots, you are. What was wrong? What went wrong?
Well, I will say this. I watched the game from start to finish, and I will say, they just gave that away on Saturday night. They just didn't really play their best, and yeah.
Well, that sucks, and trust me, heartbreaking playoff losses are very familiar to me in more than one way. Now I'll ask the question of Joey in reverse. First game this weekend, you will be taking on the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. What does Green Bay have to do to move forward? And don't give me the answer they have to beat Seattle.
Well, I look at one thing when I look at the Seattle Seahawks, and that's Russell Wilson. Obviously, a dynamic quarterback can beat you with his legs. Green Bay has many troubles over the years containing mobile quarterbacks. So if we can make them, stay in the pocket and throw from the pocket, I think it's going to be a tough game for them to win. Russell Wilson is 0-3 in Lambeau Field, so hopefully 0-4.
Well, let's hope that continues. And congratulations to all of you who still have teams in the playoffs. Unfortunately, I know nothing of these things you call playoffs this year. I apologize for that. But before we get to the meat and potatoes, this is the part of the week where I say, Corey, what's on the docket this week? You got any news and notes?
All right. So on Monday, it was announced for Team Penske that 3 of their drivers are getting a little bit of a crew chief swap. So there is followed. Which of course it equals, the 2 long pairing crew chiefs, they're going to be going to different teams. So as followed. Jeremy Bolins is going to be crew chief for the number 2 for Brad Keselowski. Todd Gordon is going to be the crew chief for the 12 of Ryan Blaney. And Paul Wolf is going to be the crew chief for the 22 of Joey Logano. So my thought is for you guys, so what does this move mean for Penske? Like, who do you think, is going to be the one to watch for, with this whole crew chief change?
Joey, why don't you take that one first?
Well, I believe that crew chief changes within the team is kind of a positive thing because, it's not like they're moving drastically, but they're just changing drivers. So I see a lot of success with this happening, especially with Paul Wolf going to Joey Logano. Joey Logano has been in the league around the same, been with Brad for a while now, raced against him. Experienced Brad winning the championship in 2012. So I think it's going to be really good to see. And, Ryan Blaney's young blood in this sport. I think he's going to have a great year no matter who's crew chiefing him. The best example I can give is when, crew chiefs are changing. We saw Chad Knaus leave the 48 and, pilot William Byron in the 24. And, even though he didn't get a win last year, I see big things on the horizon for them. So it's going to be an interesting year with all these changes.
I agree, too.
I think if there's one driver that's going to benefit the most out of this, it's going to be Ryan Blaney when you have Paul Wolf, who has helped wheel that 22 team around for the last couple of years. Now, more than ever, that veteran presence is going to take him even further. And, of course, the other 2 gentlemen going to the other 2 teams, both veteran crew chiefs, both veteran teams, the one that stands to benefit the most is really Ryan Blaney.
I would definitely say so too, and the fact you mentioned, with Todd Gordon, I mean, he's another guy, that's also won the championship with Joey Logano as well. And then, of course, I look at Paul Wolf, who also has some really good experience, with being a crew chief, with Brad Keselowski. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to see all three of the Penske guys, win races this year. Hopefully, Ryan Blaney can win a race in the regular season, because the last 2 years we've seen him win a playoff race, which basically, has came out of nowhere, and, he's on to the next round and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of like this change, but I really want to see all three of these guys, run pretty good.
And I think you're going to see that. The biggest thing for me is they all have pedigrees behind them, and they all know how to get to victory lane. Ryan Blaney, like you said, each of the last 2 years getting that last-ditch effort push to move forward, as you said, out of nowhere. But if it happens this year, this coming 2020 season, it's no longer out of nowhere. He might become one of those Tony Stewart late-season drivers who has more success when the leaves are turning colors than when they're growing onto the trees.
Right.
Joey, who do you think benefits the most from this, if not Ryan Blaney?
No, I definitely think Ryan Blaney, because when I look, into the future in NASCAR, I see the young kids in their, mid to late 20s benefiting. Crew chiefs that had much experience and much success with older guys in the sport, can teach the younger guys a little bit and bring that success down to the different level, which I think from a whole standpoint, you're looking at also not just benefiting the race team, but also benefiting Roger Penske as a whole. People will look at the moves, his guys are making and say, wow, they're switching some things around. I think this is good for the team. Roger Penske knows what he's doing, compared to, Rick Hendrick and Richard Childress and all the other guys, even, Coach Gibbs.
Yeah, right. And some of these moves are reminiscent of, moving a crew chief. Back then, there weren't as many teams. Like, I'm going to go back to when I was a kid in 1861. But when you see a guy like Larry McReynolds move from this team to this team to this team, he brings that veteran presence, he brings that knowledge, and he throws a little something extra into the soup that makes it better. And there's success all the way around. To see what Larry Mack did, Kirk Shelmerdine, Buddy Parrott, guys like that, every time they moved the team, they were successful. You can point to Chad Knaus moving to William Byron, but let's go even further back to the early part of the 2000s, where a young man named Chad Knaus was the crew chief for Stacy Compton in the number 92 car. They didn't race all that much together, but he was learning. He was getting better. You saw his genius before it became genius. And then when he got that prize job with the 48 team, it became legendary. It was the Belichick-Brady of NASCAR.
Five cup titles in a row.
Absolutely, and you're never going to see that again, in my opinion.
No.
Corey, what else you got?
All right, so this one is going to be the meat and potatoes news part of the day. So NASCAR announced yesterday that they are going to have a new pit road procedure for the Xfinity Series and the Gander Outdoors Truck Series. So I'm going to read a little bit of the notes, and then I'm going to read where this is all going to take place. So while the field is frozen and when the caution displays, there's going to be pit stops and all that stuff. So, for example, stage breaks is going to be a full pit cycle, 2 opportunities to pit. And then for a non-stage break, there's going to be a full pit cycle, 2 opportunities to pit. An optional quickie yellow will be 1 opportunity to pit. The team roster will consist of 8 crew members. The pit crew, 4 to service the car, 1 fueler, 1 driver to assist, 1 to assist the driver, must be drawn from those 8 pit crew members. Pit stops must be completed within a designated time period. Oval tracks, teams may add fuel and change 2 tires per pit stop. Road course, teams may add fuel or change 4 tires per pit stop. In order of the caution, based on the number of pit stops in the following order: vehicle that did not pit, vehicles that pitted 1 time followed by 2 times, 3 free passes, waiver rounds, vehicles, and penalty vehicles as well. So now with the penalties, this one also comes in. So restart tail end, exceeded time on pit road, if involvement in incident allowed to change 4 tires at once, to avoid damaging vehicle. And then the second one is pitting other than the designated lap. And then for a 2-lap penalty, for example, perform 4 tires and fuel on any pit stop, changes tires under green unless approved by NASCAR for damage, and perform 4 tires on any pit stop, which is oval and track only. Now, the races where this is going to take place as follows. So I'm going to read this for Xfinity first and then trucks. So Xfinity, it's going to debut at Mid-Ohio May 30th. Then you got both the Iowa races and then Road America. Then the Truck Series, you also have it at Iowa, which that'll be debuting. And then, of course, Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway and Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So before you guys get your opinion on this, I want to state this out. So from what I saw on this, at first I kind of was like, all right, we're getting another rule change, of course. This is something that we're probably going to have to learn now and everything and so forth. And, when I saw this, I thought, okay, I don't know how they're going to do this. But then at the same time, I thought, okay, the reason why they're doing this is because NASCAR wants to have all these teams save money. So in my opinion, what do you guys think about this whole rule change for the pit road procedures?
I'm going to start, and I'm going to say that I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it. It all sounds great on paper. But until we see practical execution on television or at the racetracks, if any of us are attending these races, if one of you out there is attending one of these races and you get to see it firsthand come May, let us know. I personally think it sounds good in theory. I think the execution is going to be a little suspect because who's going to keep track of all this? Are you going to have a team of computer guys going, well, the 4 can't go in and get 4 tires because he took 2 tires, 15 laps? You have to have an army of people, statisticians, to keep up with this. We try not to use coarse language now that we're back on the airwaves of Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or whatever, but it's going to be a Cambodian cluster F the first week they put this out there.
Well, of course, they do have cameras that, that are overhead on the racetrack. So, for example, like anytime like you see like somebody that gets penalized on pit road, like let's say like if, you see a guy that goes over like more than 2 pit stops, they'll have like that little green box and then all the other boxes in between. So I think that's what's probably going to happen with this. But then yet again, like, I'm also interested to see how this is all going to play out. And my part 2 question on this, do you think we're going to see this in the Cup Series?
First, we're going to have Joey answer the first part of the question, and then Joey, dive right into the second part. I will follow right after.
Yeah, I think, what Corey hit on, a lot of these changes come into effect. But the biggest thing that opens my eyes is, the tire changing, coming down, taking 2 tires. And if you want 4, you're going to have to come down again, I believe. So, I mean, that's a really big change because, you're going to see guys using the strategy, and whether it's going to be to their advantage or to their disadvantage, you're going to see throughout this year guys winning or losing, races based on the strategy. And
right.
A lot of guys are going to be like, I could have won that race if the strategy was the same or the rules were the same last year. So you're
right.
going to have a lot of guys benefit from this that know the system, and you're going to have a lot of guys, like I said, lose races from this. In terms of the Cup Series, I think it's going to depend on how well the drivers and crew like it in the trucks and the Xfinity. If they don't, there's always a possibility that I don't think they'll ever change and go back to it because, NASCAR usually, when they put the rules out there, they stick to them. So who knows, maybe in 2021 you'll see this in the Cup Series. But, I'm not a big fan of it. I think, the way that things are going now, it's kind of been steady. It was a good race season towards the end. The chase kind of got interesting. But, we'll go to Chris and see what he thinks about that coming into the Cup Series.
As far as going to the Cup Series, I must disagree with Joey on one thing, and that's in 40 years of watching this sport. Anytime they put out a new rule at the beginning of the season, I will give you credit. In the last 10 years, yes, the rule comes out and the rule sticks. I like that about what I call the new NASCAR. What I didn't like back when was, here comes this rule in, say, 1997. And in about 3 more weeks, it's changed. And in about 3 more weeks after that, it's tweaked a little more. And you're constantly, as a driver and as a fan, having to learn new rules, along with the crews and the teams, etc. You're constantly having to learn these new tweaks in these rules. Nobody knows their butt from a hole in the ground. So, will we see this on the Cup Series in 2021? Probably not. If it works out well this year, you'll see it implemented, I believe, full-time in the trucks and full-time in Xfinity. And only if in that second year it all goes well, then in 2022 you'll see this move up to the NASCAR Cup Series. But I have to agree with
on
you,
that.
and I have to agree with Joey on one more point. The strategy is going to come into play, and when you have crew chiefs, Cole Pearn is not going to be crew chiefing anymore, and that sucks. But he was a master at strategy. Chad Knapp, Rodney Childers, Todd Gordon, all masters of pit strategy. Now they're going to have to work overtime to try to figure out, okay, we have 20 laps left to go in the stage. If I go in now and take two, and just to speak of Todd Gordon, we'd have to throw 2 tires on Blaney's car. Then we get to the end of the stage. Maybe he can win it, but maybe he can't. But then we have to come in and take 2 more tires. You're right, Joey. It's going to throw everything into disarray. And that is going to happen where one guy's going to say, if it wasn't for this new rule and we went under the old package, I win this.
I probably would have won that race. Yep.
Yeah, and you don't need the office. And when I say the office, going forward, that means NASCAR. You don't want NASCAR deciding the you want the talented drivers, the talented crews, and everything that goes into it determining the end of the race. Right. Nobody wants the office deciding who's winning and who's losing.
Right. And I think, when you see this coming into play this year and you see guys winning right off the bat that were winning last year, you're going to say, they know what they're doing. Doesn't matter what rules you throw at them and what twist. This is a really good race team right here. So
right.
throw whatever you got at me. I'm still going to win races. Is the mentality.
I'm going to throw it to Corey on this one, because when you think of the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series where this is being tested this coming year, most of the guys that are really good championship quality drivers have moved up. So on the Xfinity Series, Custer's gone, Bell is gone, Reddick is gone, John Hunter Nemechek is gone. They're going to run a limited series. So you don't have those teams that are guaranteed winners or top fives. I think Allgaier is staying, so he might be the one shining light, or a Chase Briscoe who just got his job re-signed, whatever you want to call it. You only have a few examples of these guys that are proven track record winners. It's gonna be a work in progress, only because the best are already moving up, and on the Truck Series you have a couple people moving up. This is basically a blank canvas that is going to get painted as we go along, starting in May.
Right. And I could probably think with this new rule, I think of the crew chiefs, in the Xfinity and the Truck Series. One guy I could probably think of, would have to be Junior Joyner, who's the crew chief for Matt Crafton's team. And, he's going to be strategizing, in some of these races. And then I look at, Justin Allgaier's crew chief, whatever his name is, he's also going to be strategizing too. So that's the one thing I'm going to be interested about, is all these crew chiefs in Xfinity and the Truck Series, how they're going to play out with this new procedure rule, and, what they're going to do, with like pit strategy and fuel strategy and whatnot.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So are you gentlemen ready?
I'm ready.
I've decided to throw you guys a curveball this week as we lead off the first show of 2020. I'm going to ask questions that pertain to last season and this season. I have about 6 questions, a 7th one special for Mr. Joey Walnuts Ternullo all the way at the end. But when I ask these questions, I have them in an order. You guys will each swap off who goes first, who goes second. We're going to start with our guest, Joey Ternullo. Joey, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Corey, when he's done, you answer the same question. Jimmy Johnson. Okay. Jimmy Johnson was the champion from 2006 to 2010. 5 back-to-back titles. We have not had a repeat champion back-to-back since 2010. As we go into 2020, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is Kyle Busch to be the first back-to-back champion since Jimmy Johnson? And if so, why?
I'm going to go with a strong 7.5 on this one. I believe Kyle Busch is going to come right into the 2020 season strong. I don't see him winning the Daytona 500. I do not like Kyle Busch at Daytona, whether it's in, February or July. And I believe this year Daytona's in late August. for the second race. So I don't see Kyle winning any of those. But, if you look at the championship for last year and 2018, it was the same minus Denny Hamlin replacing Joey Logano this year.
Right.
It was still Truex, Harvick, and Kyle Busch. So I think Kyle's definitely going to make it to the championship 4, which is going to be in Phoenix this year. So that'll be interesting. Yep. And
which means Kevin Harvick wins.
Right. That's another thing.
Yay.
Too. Kyle Busch is very good at Phoenix. So I think we might see a back-to-back champion, or we might see Truex make his second in 3 years. So that'll be cool too. So I think that's a good way to leave it, and let's see what Corey thinks about this one.
All right, Corey, hit it.
All right. So for me, I'm gonna go with a strong 8. Now, the reason why I say this is because, you look at last year, Kyle Busch was pretty much dominant during the regular season. And then, he pulls off, what mattered most is pretty much, wins the championship and wins the race. And if you look at the playoffs last year, I wouldn't say, he had the best playoffs until he ended up winning at Homestead. But if you just look at Kyle Busch in particular, I mean, let's face it, this guy is going to break so many records from now until, the time he retires. And not to mention, we've all seen how he does when he drives in this Cup car or whatever it is. The fact that, NASCAR has been downforcing, the aero package the last couple of years. And now, with these cars that, that are kind of loose, Kyle Busch is known to do that. And I gotta say this year, I mean, for me, my on a scale of 1 to 10 for him winning the Daytona 500, I'm going to probably give it maybe a 6. Maybe a 6 or a 7, because let's face it, because Daytona, is unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen. And you just have to be there at the end. And I'd probably say for this year, I think he could probably be back-to-back champion. And of course, with the championship finale being in Phoenix, I mean, I think that's also going to be interesting too. And of course, Kyle Busch also has a really good track record in Phoenix as well. So, I mean, I'm going to give it an 8. And honestly, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, but honestly, I want to say this, I really don't want to see the same championship 4 from what we saw, but I really want to see a different championship 4 this year.
Okay. When I wrote this question down, I wrote down my answers to all of these questions. I'm going to make this brief. I gave Kyle Busch a 6.5 as a repeat champion. I don't want to say it's easy to win a championship. It's tougher to repeat. You look at baseball, we haven't had a repeat champion in years. You look at football, since the Patriots did it, we haven't had a repeat champion. Basketball, I don't even follow, so I don't even know. So it's one thing to get there and win it. It's another thing to do it again the following season. Going to the question of why, I think, like you guys said, having Kyle Busch be one of those guys that in the playoffs just turns it on like nobody else is an amazing feat that not every driver has. I happen to enjoy the big 3. I think the big 3 is a good thing. Ric Flair said it for 50 years, to be the man, you got to beat the man. These are the 3 guys you have to upset to get to the pinnacle of racing. If you can do that, you've done something. You're making history. But until somebody steps up, whoever that 4th guy is, whether it's Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, whomever, Matt DiBenedetto, doesn't matter. Whoever takes that 4th spot, you belong there. But how do you knock one of those big 3 off? That's the question. Going to the Daytona thing, it's all about right place, right time, which is why we have Trevor Bayne as a Daytona champion. So that ends that question. Great answers on both of your sides. And now, Corey, you're going to lead off this question. One answer for each series. Who will be the surprise breakout star of the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series in 2020?
Okay, so for trucks, all right, so for trucks on this one, I'm going to go with Tyler Ingram. Of course, he's driving for GMS Racing this year, and when I first saw that he announced that he was going to go to GMS, I said, expect this kid to win more races in 2020. So that's pretty much one for Xfinity. I mean, no, for trucks. I'm sorry. I just had a brain fart there. So yeah, for trucks, that was one. For Xfinity, I'm going to go with Ross Chastain. I mean, of course that he's driving for Colleague Racing, and of course he won a race at Daytona. Now that he's running the full season this year, I expect him to win a lot more races and quite possibly could be in that championship 4 in November as well. And of course, we all saw what he did in the Truck Series last year. He started off mid part of the season. He wins like about, I don't know, 4 or 5 races, almost wins the championship, and of course didn't really pull it off. So Ross Chastain and Xfinity would be one. And then the Cup Series, this one was a little bit tough for me. I'd probably say in the Cup Series, I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney on this one. And like I said earlier, with him pairing up with Todd Gordon. Now, keep this in mind. Todd Gordon, he's a smart crew chief. With him and Joey Logano the last couple of years, they've won a championship. They've won races together. So I'm really hoping for the 12 team this year. I'm hoping that they could win more than one race in 2020.
All right. Joey Walnuts, your turn.
All right, so for the Truck Series, this might surprise you guys, but I'm going to go with Christian Eckes. A big guy coming in. Great driver growing up in the legend cars, super late models, Snowball Derby winner in 2016. So I think the kid's going to have some great talent. We saw what he did, the past 2 years when he was in the trucks at Gateway. Kind of had the race taken from him twice. I forget who the driver was, but I knew it was the same person who took him out 2 years in a row. So I think he's going to be pretty stout next year driving for Kyle Busch Motorsports. For the Xfinity, I'm going to have to agree with Chris on Ross Chastain. I think we saw what he can do behind the wheel. Corey, I'm sorry. We saw what he can do behind the wheel.
Yeah.
The watermelon man. So.
Oh yeah.
And then looking into the Cup Series, this is a tough one, but the way we saw the things play out next year, I think Clint Bowyer is due to have a breakout season. We know he can drive. We know he's got good equipment backing him. So once he gets out front, I think and starts clicking off some top 5s, top 10s, and even wins, I think he's going to stay there, and he might be a sleeper come championship time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I agreed with one of your picks, and I'm going to start at the Truck Series. I'm going to go with Tyler Ankrum as well. Another guy that really impressed me last year. I can't say enough that Corey didn't already say. I'm in agreement with you both on the Xfinity Series. I'm thinking Ross Chastain, moving up full-time Xfinity, having, like Corey said, and both of you guys said, he's exciting. He started late. He won those 5 races. He blazed through, and now he can do the same on the Xfinity Series. On the Cup Series, guys, I'm going to have to be a homer on this one, and this is one of my questions for you next, and it's absolutely the next question. I'm picking Matt DiBenedetto as my surprise star based on everything that happened in the 2019 season. So we may as well start off with Corey on this question. Oh no, we started off with Corey the last time.
Yeah.
So let's go to Joey. Joey, on this show, we spent a majority of 2019 championing the cause of Matt DiBenedetto. He loses his ride. He needs a ride. He deserves a ride. He had a great showing. With the switch to the Wood Brothers and that number 21 Ford, will we see Guido in victory lane this season?
I think we most definitely will. And I think it might not just be one time. I think it might be 2 or 3 times. Great driver. That 95, he had a great run-in. Almost won at Bristol. Sad that Denny Hamlin had to take it away from him. Not a big Denny fan, but what are you going to do? Toyota's Toyota. So I think him moving into the Wood Brothers 21, he's going to have great success. And I just like him. He's a great talent, great attitude, and that's what gets you looked at and gets you fame in this sport.
Absolutely. Corey, your turn.
I'm going to say yes on this one. Considering the fact that he's going to the Wood Brothers in 2020, and of course, the Wood Brothers is also a satellite team for Team Penske. So, yeah, I definitely think he could probably win not 1, but maybe 2 races this year. And of course, we all seen how the 21 car does at Daytona and Talladega. I mean, they have a really good super speedway package, and I wouldn't be surprised, if the 21 car wins the Daytona 500 in February.
I was going to say the same thing, and I'm with you, Corey, on the 2 races minimally this season. We've watched guys in that car for years. That 21 is legendary, and some of the first times I saw it out there was with Dale Jarrett. I know Neil Bonnet ran it for a time. Then you move forward, and unfortunately, Trevor Bayne wins the Daytona 500 in that car. But I say unfortunately because he didn't go anywhere after that. But still, a fantastic victory for the Wood brothers. And we all saw Matt DiBenedetto in 2019 just race his heart out as if everything in his life depended on it. You don't see that a lot nowadays. You get good equipment, you get a good driver, it's a breeze.
Right.
In this case, you had a good driver with some substandard equipment, and he made it happen. To watch him lead the most laps at Daytona last year was awesome. And then as the hot seat started, well, you're not going to have this 95 ride next year. Well, Jimmy Christmas, what am I supposed to do? He did exactly what he should have done. He went and ran his face off, and at the end of the season, more people knew, respected, and loved Matt DiBenedetto than they did before that, and that's a testament to him. So I'm going to go with both of you guys. I'm going to agree, yes, he'll find victory lane. Yes, I'll agree with Corey. It could very possibly be the Daytona 500. I think he does it twice, and we'll get to see Guido in the playoffs. So now,
Definitely.
Corey, you get to lead this one off because this is right up your alley. I know how much you were excited to break this story on our last episode of 2019. We're talking about Hailie Deegan in the K&N Pro Series. We talked long about it in the last episode, but it got me to thinking, if Hailie Deegan sees success this year in the K&N Pro Series, will she be guided gently up through the ranks, or will she be put on the fast track and potentially derailed?
Well, first and foremost, it's now called ARCA Menard Series. But
okay, sorry.
But anyways, I'd probably say this, and I was talking to a friend one time about this, about like Hailie Deegan, and he said in his opinion that I don't think Hailie should be rushed up too quick. I mean, why don't we just have her race in the ARCA Menard Series this year, see how she does, and if she wins a race or two, maybe this year, possibly next year, get her another full-time ARCA Menards deal, and then run selected truck races while that. And then quite possibly, you can get her full-time in the truck series, maybe in 2022, 23. I mean, it depends on how she's going to do in ARCA Menards this season. And I mean, honestly, I'm really excited that she's going to be racing in ARCA. Well, actually, ARCA Menards is the way I call it. But hopefully, and the fact that she's going to be running for DGR Crosley this year, hopefully somewhere down the road she'll probably run maybe a minimal truck series schedule, because she did say that she wants to run Eldora because she really loves running on the dirt. I mean, heck, we saw her when the race out at the Las Vegas dirt track like last February or last March or something like that.
That's correct.
And for me, that pretty much surprised me quite a bit, because I thought, okay, so she knows how to run dirt. Her dad, Brian Deegan, is a famous motocross racer whatsoever. But I would probably say this year, give her full-time deal for ARCA Menards, and then next year, do the same thing, except, run like a minimal truck schedule, everything in between. So, but yeah, I really think, and I'm going to say, she's not going to be the next Danica Patrick, but I think, we're probably going to see we're going to see a lot of talent out of this, and I can't wait to see what she does this year.
Okay. Joey, same question. Will she be guided through the ranks if she sees success, or will she be put on the fast track to nowhere?
I think she may be guided. We saw what she can do behind the wheel, like Corey said, winning those races out west. She's got great talent, like her father. Her father pushes her to be the best that she can be. I just think that, I don't think she should be pushed. I think she should stay where she is right now, and how she moved up, try to get some laps under her belt, win some races, and just take it from there. If nothing's broken, don't fix it is, the way I like to look at it. So the way she's going now, stay with it and let everything fall right into her lap, and we might see her climb right up to the ranks.
I wish I had you guys' optimism. I really do. I'm going to throw two names at you that were brought up way too soon, way too quick, and it kind of leads into, there's two more questions. The last question, obviously, will have more rookies, more young guys in it. But Daniel Hemrick and Trevor Bayne are two guys that I looked at not only Hemrick this past season, but Trevor Bayne many years ago. Very early success. Let's get him into a cup ride. And I don't think we talked about this, Corey and I, many times. Joey, I'm sure you've heard it on the show. I don't think they gave Daniel Hemrick enough of a chance. Whereas with Trevor Bayne, they threw everything at this kid, and he just didn't produce. But they saw early success on the different levels, and I think they brought those guys up too soon. Hemrick will never be sure because he had his full-time ride last year in that number 8 RCR car, and now he has no ride. So, and if he does have a ride, I haven't heard about it, which sucks for me because I'm not paying enough attention with all the things going on lately. I hope, and I want to believe you guys, that they're going to guide her. They're going to walk her through step by step, move up incrementally, and not just say, oh, look, she won on the ARCA Menard Series. Let's put her full time in the truck. And then she wins a race in the truck. And somebody goes, oh, wow, here's whoever said the next Danica, bite your tongue. Seriously, nobody wants that.
I think I just lost you guys.
I still got you, Corey, so all good in the hood. I don't know what happened with.
I don't know, because I heard you guys talking, all of a sudden, like, it just went off. Like, I don't know what just happened.
Okay, we still got you. I'll finish the point so we can get to the next question.
Hold on, never mind.
Okay, if they move her up incrementally, that's great. If they do what they've done with other drivers in the past, and I'm afraid for some of these guys, we're going to talk about 2 questions away from now. You move them up too quick, you're building a recipe for disaster. I just don't want to see that. I'm going to take your guys' answer, and I'm going to throw a little cross. I'm going to throw a little kiss to the Lord above and say, please don't do her wrong.
Speaking of Daniel Hemrick, so I guess this year, I guess he's running a part-time schedule in Xfinity for Junior Motorsports.
Well, he deserves better. He certainly deserves better. On to the next question. Leading off will be...
And there it goes
Joey.
again.
We'll wait till we get him back. But Joey, this is your question. And when Corey says he's got us again, we'll ask him. Crew chief change for the number 19. How long will it take for the crew chief, James Small, and driver Martin Truex Jr. to find their rhythm and find victory lane?
I'm going to say not too long. I think maybe, the end of the first quarter of the season. I'd say probably, maybe early April, early May. I think once you start those short tracks start rolling around, Bristol, Martinsville, that's where Martin Truex, he went a long time without winning on a short track, and kind of found his rhythm winning, Martinsville and stuff like that. So I think he'll be back to his normal ways, and we'll see who the real mastermind behind that 19 team is. If it was Martin Truex or was it Cole Pearn all those years. So I think once he gets back to victory lane, they'll get right back in that rhythm like Cole Pearn never left.
Okay, so I guess a side question, and Corey, just you got us?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask you the question again in a second, but I'm going to follow up with Joey just real quick. A lot of times a new crew chief rolls in, and like what we talked about with Penske earlier, with all of the crew chief changes, that's all within the team. This guy was an engineer. Now he's moving up to the big seat. It's hard to find that immediate rhythm like Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers, like Tony Stewart and Zipadelli. Those are 4 examples out of thousands of race teams over the years. It's not as easy anymore to find that chemistry. I like your answer. I think you are thinking big, and I think you should think big, and I think the 19 team should think big. But I think, just in my opinion, I'm a little more cautious. I think, April, May is a little bit – you're setting the bar a little too high, my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so Corey, same question to you. How long will it take for James Small and Martin Truex to find their rhythm in that 19 team?
I don't think it's going to take them too long. I mean, with like a new crew chief for the 19 team, but I'm going to say they're going to pick up right where they left off. I mean, of course, I'd probably say first race, they're going to have to get to know them well, get to know each other, and what they need to do and what he wants to do and all that stuff. But I think, it's going to be all right. But yet again, it was a big shock, that Cole Pearn, left. But yeah, I think it's going to be the same as last year, and hopefully they can go to the championship for in November.
Okay. Well, you've heard my answer. I'm a little less optimistic on this one. I do think they're going to find their rhythm. I just don't think it'll be as soon as you guys think. And I hope I'm wrong because, I dig Martin Truex. My daughter's a huge Martin Truex fan. So anytime that 19 team does good, I'm happy. So let's hope I'm wrong. Final question to think about. Corey, you get to start this one. We just found out not too long ago, I think it was the last episode of 2019, John Hunter Nemechek is going full-time in the series, and he's going to be a qualifier for the Rookie of the Year. You also have Cole Custer, Christopher Bell, and Tyler Reddick going full-time. Two-part question. Is this the toughest battle for Rookie of the Year since 2001? And who takes Rookie of the Year this year?
All right, so could you repeat that? Because it just went in and out last couple times.
Okay, Nemechek, Custer, Bell, Reddick, all going full-time. To me, this is the best rookie crop since 2001.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully you'll agree. In your opinion, who takes Rookie of the Year and why?
All right. This one's a little bit tough to come by, but gosh, if I'm going to have to pick one right now, I'm going to have to say Christopher Bell. I mean, we all saw what he did in the trucks, and we all saw what he did in Xfinity. I mean, the kid can drive. I mean, whether if it's a loose race car or not, he's just known for, driving the wheels out of anything. And I think, with him going to Levine Family Racing in 2020, I probably don't expect him to win a race, but then yet again, like, it would be nice if he could win like a race or two, but, and we all saw, what Levine Family Racing did last year with Matt DiBenedetto. I mean, they won. Well, no, they didn't win, but like they ran consistent. They ran a couple top 5 finishes, all that stuff. But then yet again, I think with Christopher Bell coming in, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to do. And, hopefully, I think in my opinion, I think he's going to be the one that's going to win Rookie of the Year. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting rookie class for 2020. I mean, I'm looking forward to see how the Xfinity Big Three are going to run in the Cup Series this year. So, and honestly, I'm just interested to see who's going to win first.
Oh, yeah, great point. Joey, who do you got? Reddick, Bell, Custer, or Nemechek, and why?
I'm going to agree with Corey on this one. I'm going to go with Bell. I mean, the kid can drive, and I might be a little biased, but every time you turn on an Xfinity race last year, that kid was always up front. No matter what track it was, the kid's always up front. He can win anywhere. I think him moving right to the Cup Series was a good call. It's interesting to see how he does, but, going back to what you said earlier about Truex and his crew chief finding that rhythm, now this is Bell trying to find his rhythm within the Cup Series. Not so much with him and his crew chief, but for me, being a driver, from a driver standpoint, when you're in a field of new people, you got to find your rhythm first, and then you can look to the outskirts and start, dealing with the people around you. But once he gets comfortable, I see him, winning a lot of races. Maybe he can knock off a race at the end of the year, but I see a lot of top 10s, just consistent runs. And, towards the end of the year, if he can get a win, that's great. But I think in 2021, 2022, looking on the horizon, that he's going to be up there. I don't see him possibly in driving for that team for forever. Obviously, he was driving for Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity, so hopefully he could maybe land a ride there in the Cup Series once Joe Gibbs guys retire, because a lot of guys are going to come up to the ranks quick, and a lot of people are going to have to get booted.
No, and when you look at Joe Gibbs racing, I mean, Hamlin's not a young guy anymore.
Nope.
Kyle Busch is not; he's young-ish.
Yeah.
You look at Martin Truex, who just signed a multi-year deal. He's in his late 30s. It's an anomaly nowadays to have drivers drive deep into their 40s. You look at the standings now. Harvick's the only 40-plus that is really making a mark out there. So it is a young man's field now. These guys are going to have long careers, and I agree with both of you that Christopher Bell is going to have great success. But when it comes to Christopher Bell, there's always that name that creeps up right behind him. He's that spoiler, and that's my pick is going to be Cole Custer as the Rookie of the Year in 2020. Just a lot of success. When you saw Bell, you saw Custer. If they weren't 1 and 2 swap by swap, they were within car lengths of each other. And when one got caught in a wreck, it seemed like the other had bad luck. It's almost as if they're yin and yang. They're Batman and the Joker. They're glued to each other. So
Yeah.
my pick is going to be Cole Custer as the Rookie of the Year. I'm actually hoping, in side question, I'll start with Corey on this one. Is this the year we finally see John Hunter Nemechek break out, or is this just another year of, well, he's John Hunter Nemechek, we got to give him a job?
All right. I'm sorry. What happened?
I was going to ask you, side question. Is this the year that we finally see John Hunter Nemechek break out, or is this just, well, he's John Hunter Nemechek, he's got some skills, let's give him a job?
All right. I probably wouldn't say, it's going to be a breakout year because, of course, he's racing for Front Row Motorsports. But I just look at him this year, I thought, okay, even though, they're a really good team, when it comes to the super speedways, but I don't know, maybe, you'll probably see Hunter Nemechek, get maybe a top 20, maybe a top 15, but I don't probably see this as a breakout year.
Oh, when I say breakout, please let me expand on that before we go to Joey. I'm not talking about winning 3 races, making it to the championship 4. For John Hunter Nemechek, what I'm hoping for is a top 20 points finish as a breakout year on the grandest stage of them all, the Cup Series. I'm not looking for him to replicate great rookie seasons of the past by other drivers. I'm looking for him to be competitive from the first flag of Daytona to the last flag of Phoenix.
Right.
I got feedback. You took off your headphones, didn't you?
Yeah, because I don't know what's going on with them. It's just going in and out or something like that. It's either that or else I probably need to change the batteries.
All right, well, we're going to apologize for the feedback on this episode. Joey, it's your question. Is this a breakout year for Nemechek, or is this, well, he needs a job and everybody likes Front Row Joe?
I think it might be a breakout year for him, like you said. He's proven himself too. I don't think he's, got the skill set as Christopher Bell does, but you put him in a good ride and he'll get up front as well. Even like you said, top 20 in points can be considered a breakout year for him. So I don't see, these guys transferring out of the Xfinity Series and going to the Cup Series and winning right off the bat. It's going to take time. The way the series is, formatted now with all the playoffs, the playoff format and stuff like that. You can win races and not make the playoffs. It's just, that's the way it goes. So I think, a breakout year is on the horizon for John Hunter Nemechek, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, I got one last question that I just came up with. You guys are going to fill in the blank, and then we'll go to pimps, plugs, and everything else we have to push. I'm going to start with Joey on this one. Joey, the 2020 season, the big 3, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick. Who is the 4th member of the championship 4?
I'm going to have to go with Joey Logano.
Okay. Corey, same question.
All right. So 4th member. Let's see.
Because you know the big 3 are going to be there.
Right. I know the big 3 are going to be there. Yeah, no doubt about it. But boy, you know what? I'm gonna go with Penske too, and I'm gonna say Brad Keselowski.
You just mirrored my pick as well. I think Brad Keselowski is going to make it. Nothing against Joey Logano. I know, Connecticut born, Connecticut bred. Now he lives in North Carolina and does his racing bit, but he's, Middletown strong. But there's something about Brad Keselowski that I like, despite the fact that he looks like Butthead without a Beavis. But he drives that Blue Deuce like nobody's business. Reminds me a lot of Rusty Wallace back in the day. I'm a fan of Keselowski. Not to say that when Harvick goes, he's my guy, because I think we all know Guido's going to be Chris's next driver. But let's be honest, there's few better than Kes when it comes to the late races of the season.
Yeah.
Now,
Definitely.
One question left, and this is for Joey Ternullo. Joey, where's our T-shirts, brother?
I knew this was coming. Well, so for the 2020 season, we're going to make a little bit of some decal changes on the car, on the SK. We're going to change some decals for the sponsorships and stuff like that. Change some decals on the back panel. So, want to get everything right, approve it with my sponsors before we go racing on April 26th. That's the date for the Spring Sizzler at Stafford Motor Speedway. So once we get that, we'll get some shirts printed, have them for sale. Give them to you guys, guys on the show. So I'm looking forward to the season this year.
All right. Where can they only get them at the track, or are you going to offer them online at all?
No, I won't probably offer them online just because, my racing's not set up that way at the moment. But, I'll be advertising them on Facebook. Most of these guys could catch me around. I'm a local guy, so I'll be out somewhere. I don't mind shipping them to people and stuff like that. But, I'll have them at the Sizzler, at the pit party. Come onto the track, buy one, get some hero cars and stuff like that. Stafford puts on a great environment for paraphernalia like that. So I think it's going to be really good.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the Spring Sizzler on April 26th. That's at Stafford Motor Speedway. Guys, if you are local, go out and see Joey. Now that I have the date, I think I'm going to take, it's 4 months in advance. I usually take my time off 2 or 3 months in advance. Now, Corey's glaring a hole in me saying, dude, I tell you about my kart races all the time. It's Peabody, Massachusetts, brother. And I'm sorry, but this is right up the road for me, and it's no offense to Corey. I see you every week. Joey, I don't see any all the time anymore since I've transferred more toward home to work. Having said that, this is you pimped and plugged. Now, Corey, pimp, plug, and otherwise push upon the people.
All right, so keep following the C&J Speedway Review. Facebook, make sure you guys like us and make sure you guys follow us on Facebook as well. Twitter, we are at CJ_Speedway, and then Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway. And yeah, literally nothing much I have, other than the fact, I'm ready for the 2020 season. I think this is going to be a fun year. And, not only that, I think the playoffs for the Cup Series, I think it's going to be very interesting too. You got 2 short tracks. You got Phoenix, that's going to be the championship race as well. And then what's also going to be fun, you got Darlington that's going to kick off the playoffs, which I think it's going to be fun also. Yes. And not only that, I'm really excited, that I'm excited that Daytona is going to be the regular season finale instead of having it at Indianapolis, which, to my knowledge, I really think, Indianapolis, it was an okay race the last couple of years. And then last year, it's just one of those races where you're just like, somebody just needs to win already or whatever.
Yeah, they did. And his name was Kevin Harvick. I had no issue with that race whatsoever.
And he won the race by about 6 seconds, by the way.
Exactly. Dominance.
Which
Dominant
I have to say to myself, with this whole with the whole aero package, I thought, oh boy, with the new aero package that's coming in, I thought we were going to see an exciting Indianapolis race, and then we pretty much saw the same as what we saw the last couple of years. But then yet said, it's also going to be interesting too because it's also Jimmy Johnson's final year in the Cup Series as well. So hopefully the 48 team can get a win before they go out, and hopefully I definitely would want to see him win their 8th championship and go out on top. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. We'll just have to see how he does, the first 10 races, and then we'll figure out where it all goes.
Yeah, that's some big thinking, kid. And not that I disagree with you on hopefully seeing Jimmy Johnson in victory lane one more time before he retires. But that championship, man, that's some tall drink of water you're asking for, and I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. But let me do a little pimping and plugging myself. Guys, I feel like a kangaroo herder right now because this is the second Joey I've had on a show in 3 nights. If you are not a listener of the Loki and Jabroni show, go find Monday's YouTube show or Tuesday's podcast version on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you steal your favorite podcast from. Once again, we featured professional drummer Joey Casada, but this time we didn't talk about rock and roll. We talked about professional wrestling, and we had a great time doing it. So please go check that out. On the flip side, please, a new podcast has sprung up in the Focus Digital Network. It is called Basement Quest. If you are a gamer, whether it's video games, role-playing games, those games with the 50-sided dice where you use a charmed longstaff and you kill orcs and all that stuff. I have no frame of reference, but these guys do. Go check out Eddie Focus and Michael Smith as they walk you through the Basement Quest. If you just listen to one episode, I'll be happy. If you're a gamer, as they continue to grow, the first episode is out now. Go find them, basementquest.com. Really great stuff. And I have to say, Joey Ternullo, thank you again. It is always great to have you on the show. And it's always great to see you when I do get to see you. And I will definitely see you on April 26th at the Spring Sizzler at Stafford Motor Speedway.
Appreciate it. And I got one more question for you guys before we head out.
Packers by 7.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Also 3 words. Go Pack, go. That's what I was going to end with.
Vikings by 14.
That's true. That way the NFC Championship can be in Lambeau and not Santa Clara.
It doesn't matter. It's NFC North, and that's my second favorite division in the NFC. Right.
So my question for you guys was, do you guys have any NASCAR dates circled on the calendar that you might be in attendance to?
I got one, and I was going to talk to Corey about it off air, but hopefully I'll be making the trek up to New Hampshire this year for whatever the July race is, because
Foxwoods Resort Casino 301.
301. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I missed it last year. We had family vacation. I was in New Hampshire. I was 30 miles from the track. I'm listening to the race after we checked out of the hotel. And, of course, Kevin Harvick wins the whole thing. He only wins when I'm not there.
I was there.
Quick bit of trivia for you guys, and Corey already knows this. I have never, in 40 years, been to a race where my favorite guy wins. Ever.
Really?
From Rusty Wallace to Kevin Harvick. Never. I've seen a butt ton of second places, but never the checkers.
Yep.
That's on my circle, yeah.
I was at the 2014 fall race, the September race in Loudon, where Logano won on a green-white checkered, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was there too, funny enough.
Yep.
Really good.
Yep.
Corey, what's on your calendar this year?
Well, definitely I have to say New Hampshire as well. And, of course, I was at the Xfinity race last year, which, of course, it was a scorcher. And beside the fact that I saw Christopher Bell win the race, it was a really hot weekend. And, of course, everybody at the track, they did a good job, with keeping everybody cool and all that, with the air conditioning and then the mist and so forth. But, yeah, New Hampshire is definitely on my calendar again for sure, and hopefully in June I'll definitely be making the trip down to see Conk to watch the modifieds this year.
Very nice.
Very good.
So ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Joey Ternullo one more time for being on the show. Thank you. You're awesome. If you've got nothing to do for Daytona 500, why don't you make the trek down to Montville and watch it in the Man Cave Supreme. All of us have been there, Eddie, Corey, myself. You will be amazed, and we do a live pre-race and post-race, and you could be a part of it.
Yeah.
Very good. That sounds great.
All right, so for the 2 most famous words in C&J Speedway review history, I throw it to Corey Huffnagel. Corey, tell him what it's about.
Good night.
You really need to learn a new language.
I know.